The First Book of Adam and Hawwah. AHWXWMDARPs. 1. On the third day, Elohim planted the garden in the east of the earth, on the border of the world in the eastward direction toward and beyond the rising sun. There one finds nothing but water that encompasses the whole world and reaches to the borders of the Shamayim. And to the north of the garden there is a sea of water, clear and pure to the taste, unlike anything else, so that, through the clearness one may look into the depths of the earth. And when a man washes himself in it, he becomes perfectly clean and perfectly white, even if he were dark. And Elohim created that sea of his own good pleasure, for he knew what would come of the man he would make, so that after he had left the garden, because of his transgression, men should be born in the earth. Among them are righteous ones who will die, whose souls Elohim would raise at the last day when all of them will return to their flesh, bathe in the water of that sea, and repent of their sins. But when Elohim caused Adam to go out of the garden, he did not place him on the border of it northward. This was so that he and Hawwah would not be able to go near to the sea of water where they could wash themselves in it and be cleansed from their sins and erase the transgression they had committed, so that they be no longer reminded of it in the thought of their punishment. As to the southern side of the garden, Elohim did not want Adam to live there either, because, when the wind blew from the north, it would bring to him, on that southern side, the delicious smell of the trees of the garden. 5. 1 Adam and Hawwah. So Elohim did not put Adam there. This was so that he would not be able to smell the sweet smell of those trees and forget his transgression, and find consolation for what he had done by taking delight in the smell of the trees and yet not be cleansed from his transgression. Also, because Elohim is merciful and of great pity, and governs all things in a way that he alone knows. He made our father Adam to live in the western border of the garden because on that side the land is very wide. And Elohim commanded him to live there in a cave in a rock. This was the cave of treasures, which is below the garden. 2. But when our father Adam, and Hawwah, went out of the garden, they walked the ground on their feet, not knowing where they were going. And when they came to the opening of the gate of the garden and saw the land spread before them widely, covered with stones large and small, and with sand, they feared and trembled, and fell on their faces from the fear that came over them, and they were as though they were dead. Until this time they had been in the garden land, beautifully planted with all manner of trees, and they now saw themselves in a strange land, which they did not know and had never seen. When they were in the garden they were filled with the grace of a bright nature, and they had hearts not turned toward earthly things. Therefore Elohim had pity on them, and when he saw them fallen before the gate of the garden, he sent his word to our father Adam, and to Hawwah, and raised them from their fallen state. 3. Elohim said to Adam, I have ordained days and years on this earth, and you and your descendants shall live and walk in them until the days and years are fulfilled. Then I shall send the word that created you. 6. Adam and Eve 1. And against which you have transgressed the word that made you come out of the garden and that raised you when you were fallen. Yes, this is the word that will again save you when the 5.5 days are fulfilled. But when Adam heard these words from Elohim, and of the great 5.5 days, he did not understand the meaning of them. For Adam was thinking there would be only 5.5 days for him until the end of the world. And Adam cried and prayed to Elohim to explain it to him. Then Elohim in his mercy for Adam, who was made after his own image and likeness, explained to him that these were 5,500 years and how the one would then come and save him and his descendants. But before that, Elohim had made this covenant with our father, Adam, in the same terms before he came out of the garden, when he was by the tree where Hawwah took of the fruit and gave it to him to eat. Because, when our father, Adam, came out of the garden he passed by that tree and saw how Elohim had changed the appearance of it into another form and how it had shriveled. And as Adam went to it he feared, trembled, and fell down. But Elohim in his mercy lifted him up and then made this covenant with him. Also, when Adam was by the gate of the garden he saw the cherub with a sword of flashing fire in his hand, and the cherub grew angry and frowned at him. Both Adam and Hawwah became afraid of the cherub and thought he meant to put them to death. So they fell on their faces, trembling with fear. But he had pity on them, and showed them mercy. And turning from them went up to the Shamayim, and prayed unto Hawwah, and said, hwhy, you sent me to watch at the gate of the garden, with a sword of fire. 7. 1 Adam and Hawwah. But when your servants, Adam and Hawwah, saw me, they fell on their faces, and were as dead. Hwhy, what shall we do to your servants? Then Elohim had pity on them, and showed them mercy, and sent his messenger to keep the garden. And the word of hwhy came to Adam and Hawwah, and raised them up. And hwhy said to Adam, I told you that at the end of the 5.5 days I will send my word and save you. Therefore, strengthen your heart and stay in the cave of treasures, of which I have spoken to you before. And when Adam heard this word from Elohim, he was comforted with that which Elohim had told him. For he had told him how he would save him. 4. But Adam and Hawwah cried for having come out of the garden, which was their first home. And indeed, when Adam looked at his flesh he saw that it was altered, and he cried bitterly, he and Hawwah cried, over what they had done. And they walked and went gently down into the cave of treasures. And as they came to it, Adam cried over himself and said to Hawwah, Look at this cave that is to be our prison in this world, and a place of punishment. What is it compared with the garden? What is its narrowness compared with the space of the other? What is this rock compared of those groves? What is the gloom of this cave, compared with the light of the garden? What is this overhanging ledge of rock that shelters us compared with the mercy of hwhy that overshadowed us? What is the soil of this cave compared with the garden land? Does this earth, scattered with stones, compared to that garden planted with delicious fruit trees? 8. Adam and Eve 1. And Adam said to Hawwah, Look at your eyes, and at mine, which before beheld messengers praising in the Shamiam without ceasing. Now we do not see as we did, our eyes have become of flesh, they cannot see like they saw before. Adam said again to Hawwah, What is our body today, compared to what it was in former days, when we lived in the garden? After this, Adam did not want to enter the cave under the overhanging rock. He never wanted to enter it again. But he bowed to Elohim's commands, and said to himself, Unless I enter the cave, I shall again be a transgressor. 5. Then Adam and Hawwah entered the cave, and stood praying, in their own tongue, unknown to us, but which they knew well. And as they prayed, Adam raised his eyes and saw the rock and the roof of the cave that covered him overhead. This prevented him from seeing either the Shamiam or Elohim's creatures. So he cried and beat his chest hard, until he dropped, and was as dead. And Hawwah sat crying, for she believed he was dead. Then she got up, spread her hands toward Elohim, appealing to him for mercy and pity, and said, O Elohim, forgive me my sin, the sin which I committed, and don't remember it against me. For I alone caused your servant to fall from the garden into this condemned land, from light into this darkness, and from the house of joy into this prison. O Elohim, look at this your servant fallen in this manner, and bring him back to life, that he may cry and repent of his transgression which he committed through me. Don't take away his soul at this time, but let him live so that he may stand after the measure of his repentance, and do your will, as before his death. 9. 1 Adam and Hawwah. But if you do not bring him back to life, then, O Elohim, take away my own soul, so that I will be like him, and leave me not in this dungeon, alone, for I could not stand alone in this world, without him. For you, O Elohim, caused him to fall asleep, and took a bone from his side, and placed the flesh back in its place by your divine power. And you took me, the bone, and made me, a woman, bright like him, with heart, reason, and speech, and flesh like to his own, and you made me after the likeness of his looks, by your mercy and power. Hwhy, he and I are one, and you, O Elohim, are our Creator, you are he who made us both in one day. Therefore, O Elohim, give him life so that he may be with me in this strange land while we live in it due to our transgression. But if you will not give him life, then take me, even me, like him, that we both may die the same day. And Hawwah cried bitterly, and fell on our father, Adam, because of her great sorrow. 6. But Elohim looked at them, for they had killed themselves through great grief. And he decided to raise them and comfort them. Therefore, he sent his word to them that they should stand and be raised immediately. And hwhy said to Adam and Hawwah, You transgressed of your own free will, until you came out of the garden in which I had placed you. Of your own free will have you transgressed through your desire for divinity, greatness, and an exalted state, such as I have. Therefore I deprived you of the bright nature which you had then, and I made you come out of the garden to this land. Rough and full of trouble. If only you had not transgressed my commandment and had kept my Torah, and had not eaten of the fruit of the tree which I told you not to come. 10. Adam and Eve 1. Near, and there were fruit trees in the garden better than that one. But the wicked Satan did not keep his faith and had no good intent towards me, and although I had created him, he considered me to be useless, and he sought the Almighty for himself. For this I hurled him down from the Shamaim so that he could not remain in his first estate. It was he who made the tree appear pleasant to your eyes until you ate of it by believing his words. Thus have you transgressed my commandment, and therefore I have brought on you all these sorrows. For I am Elohim the Creator, who, when I created my creatures, did not intend to destroy them. But after they had greatly roused my anger, I punished them with grievous plagues until they repent. But, if on the contrary they still continue hardened in their transgression, they shall be under a curse forever. 7. When Adam and Hawwah heard these words from Elohim, they cried and sobbed even more, but they strengthened their hearts in Elohim because they now felt that hawwah was to them like a father and a mother, and for this very reason, they cried before him and sought mercy from him. Then Elohim had pity on them, and said, O Adam, I have made my covenant with you, and I will not turn from it, neither will I let you return to the garden, until my covenant of the great 5.5 days is fulfilled. Then Adam said to Elohim, O hawwah, you created us, and made us fit to be in the garden, and before I transgressed, you made all beasts come to me, that I should name them. Your grace was then on me, and I named every one according to your mind, and you made them all subject to me. But now, O hawwah Elohim, that I have transgressed your commandment, all beasts will rise against me. 11. One Adam and Hawwah. And will devour me, and Hawwah your handmaid, and will cut off our life from the face of the earth. I therefore beg you, O Elohim, that since you have made us come out of the garden, and have made us be in a strange land, you will not let the beasts hurt us. When hawwah heard these words from Adam, he had pity on him, and felt that he had truly said that the beasts of the field would rise and devour him and Hawwah, because he, hawwah, was angry with the two of them because of their transgressions. Then Elohim commanded the beasts, and the birds, and all that moves on the earth, to come to Adam and to be familiar with him, and not to trouble him and Hawwah, nor any of the good and righteous among their offspring. Then all the beasts paid homage to Adam, according to the commandment of Elohim except the serpent, against which Elohim was angry. It did not come to Adam, with the beasts. 8. Then Adam cried and said, O Elohim, when we lived in the garden, and our hearts were lifted up, we saw the messengers that sang praises in the Shamaim, but now we can't see like we once saw. No, when we entered the cave all creation became hidden from us. Then hawwah Elohim said to Adam, when you were under subjection to me, you had a bright nature within you and for that reason could you see distant things. But after you transgressed your bright nature was taken out of you and it was not left in you to see distant things, but only things near to you, as is the ability of the flesh, for it is brutish. When Adam and Hawwah had heard these words from Elohim, they went their way, praising and worshipping him with a sorrowful heart. And Elohim ceased communing with them. 12. Adam and Eve 1. 9. Then Adam and Hawwah came out of the cave of treasures, and came near to the garden gate. There they stood and looked at it and cried for having gone away from it. And Adam and Hawwah went south of the gate of the garden to the side of it and found there the water that watered the garden, which came from the root of the tree of high, and they saw that the water was split from there into 4 rivers over the earth. Then they came near to that water and looked at it and saw that it was the water that came up from under the root of the tree of high in the garden. And Adam cried and wailed, and beat his chest for being cut out from the garden, and said to Hawwah, Why have you brought so many of these plagues and punishments on me, on yourself, and on our descendants? And Hawwah said to him, What is it you have seen that has caused you to cry and to speak to me in this manner? And he said to Hawwah, Do you not see this water that watered the trees of the garden, and flowed out from there that was with us in the garden? And when we were in the garden we did not care about it, but since we came to this strange land we love it and turn it to use for our body. But when Hawwa heard these words from him she cried, and from the soreness of their crying they fell into that water. They would have put an end to themselves in it, as never again to return and behold the creation, for when they looked at the work of creation, they felt they must put an end to themselves. 10. Then Elohim, merciful and gracious, looked at them as they were lying in the water, and close to death, and he sent a messenger who brought them out of the water and laid them on the seashore as dead. 13. 1 Adam and Hawwa. Then the messenger went up to Elohim and said, O Elohim, your creatures have breathed their last breath. Then Elohim sent his word to Adam and Hawwa, who raised them from their death. And Adam said, after he was raised, O Elohim, while we were in the garden we did not require or care about this water, but since we came to this land we cannot do without it. Then Elohim said to Adam, while you were under my command and were a bright messenger you did not experience this water. But now that you have transgressed my commandment, you cannot do without water to wash your body and make it grow, for it is now like that of beasts, and is in want of water. When Adam and Hawwa heard these words from Elohim, they cried a bitter cry, and Adam entreated Elohim to let him return into the garden and look at it a second time. But Elohim said to Adam, I have made you a promise, when that promise is fulfilled, I will bring you back into the garden, you and your righteous descendants. And Elohim ceased to commune with Adam. 11. Adam and Hawwa then felt themselves burning with thirst, and heat, and sorrow. And Adam said to Hawwa, we shall not drink of this water even if we were to die. O Hawwa, when this water comes into our inner parts it will increase our punishments and that of our descendants. Both Adam and Hawwa then went away from the water, and drank none of it at all but came and entered the cave of treasures. But when in it Adam could not see Hawwa he only heard the noise she made. Neither could she see Adam, but heard the noise he made. 14. Adam and Eve 1. Then Adam cried in deep affliction, and beat his chest, and got up and said to Hawwa, where are you? And she said unto him, look, I am standing here in this darkness. He then said to her, remember the bright nature in which we lived, while we abode in the garden. O Hawwa, remember the glory that rested on us in the garden. O Hawwa, remember the trees that overshadowed us in the garden while we moved among them. O Hawwa, remember that while we were in the garden, we knew neither night nor day. Think of the tree of high, from below which flowed the water, and that shed splendor over us. Remember, O Hawwa, the garden land, and the brightness of it. Think, O think of that garden in which was no darkness, while we lived in it. But no sooner did we come into this cave of treasures than darkness surrounded us all around until we can no longer see each other, and all the pleasure of this life has come to an end. 12. Then Adam beat his chest, he and Hawwa, and they mourned the whole night until the first light of dawn, and they sighed over the length of the night in the 8th month. And Adam beat himself, and threw himself on the ground in the cave, from bitter grief, and because of the darkness, and lay there as dead. But Hawwa heard the noise he made in falling on the ground. And she felt about for him with her hands and found him like a corpse. Then she was afraid, speechless, and she remained by him. But the merciful hwhy looked on the death of Adam, and on Hawwa's silence from fear of the darkness. And the word of Elohim came to Adam and raised him from his death, and opened Hawwa's mouth that she might speak. 15. 1 Adam and Hawwa. Then Adam stood up in the cave and said, O Elohim, why has light departed from us and darkness covered us? Why did you leave us in this extensive darkness? Why do you plague us like this? And this darkness, O hwhy, where was it before it covered us? It is because of this that we cannot see each other. For so long as we were in the garden we neither saw nor even knew what darkness was. I was not hidden from Hawwa, neither was she hidden from me, until now that she cannot see me and no darkness came over us to separate us from each other. But she and I were both in one bright light. I saw her and she saw me. Yet now since we came into this cave darkness has covered us and separated us from each other so that I do not see her, and she does not see me. O hwhy, will you then plague us with this darkness? 13. Then when Elohim, who is merciful and full of pity, heard Adam's voice, he said to him, "O Adam, so long as the good messenger was obedient to me, a bright light rested on him and on his hosts. But when he transgressed my commandment, I dispossessed him of that bright nature, and he became dark. And when he was in the Shamiam, in the realms of light, he knew nothing of darkness. But he transgressed, and I made him fall from the Shamiam onto the earth, and it was this darkness that came over him. And, O Adam, while in my garden and obedient to me, that bright light rest also on you. But when I heard of your transgression, I took from you that bright light. Yet, of my mercy, I did not turn you into darkness, but I made your body a body of flesh over which I spread this skin in order that it may bear cold and heat." 16. Adam and Eve 1. If I had let my wrath fall heavily on you, I should have destroyed you, and had I turned you into darkness, it would have been as if I had killed you. But in my mercy, I have made you as you were when you transgressed my commandment, O Adam. I drove you from the garden, and made you come forth into this land, and commanded you to live in this cave, and darkness covered you, as it did over him who transgressed my commandment. Thus, O Adam, has this night deceived you. It is not to last forever, but is only of 12 hours. When it is over, daylight will return. Do not sigh or be moved, and do not say in your heart that this darkness is long and drags on wearily. Do not say in your heart that I plague you with it. Strengthen your heart and be not afraid. This darkness is not a punishment. Adam, I have made the day and have placed the sun in it to give light, in order that you and your children should do your work. For I knew you would sin and transgress and come out into this land. Yet I wouldn't force you nor be heard over you, nor shut up, nor doom you through your fall, nor through your coming out from light into darkness, nor yet through your coming from the garden into this land. For I made you of the light, and I willed to bring out children of light from you that were like you. But you did not keep my commandment one day until I had finished the creation and brought everything in it. Then, concerning the tree, I commanded you not to eat of it. Yet I knew that Satan, who deceived himself, would also deceive you. So I made known to you by means of the tree, not to come near him. And I told you not to eat of the fruit thereof, nor to taste of it, nor yet to sit under it, nor to yield to it. Had I not spoken to you, O Adam, concerning the tree, and had I left you without a commandment? And 17. 1 Adam and Hawwah. You had sinned, it would have been an offense on my part, for not having given you any order you would turn around and blame me for it. But I commanded you, and warned you, and you fell. So that my creatures cannot blame me, but the blame rests on them alone. And, O Adam, I have made the day so that you and your descendants can work and toil in it. And I have made the night for them to rest in it from their work, and for the beasts of the field to go forth by night and look for their food. But little of darkness now remains, O Adam, and daylight will soon appear. 14. Then Adam said to Elohim, O hawwah, take my soul and let me not see this gloom any more, or remove me to some place where there is no darkness. But hawwah, Elohim said to Adam, I say to you, indeed, this darkness will pass from you every day. I have determined for you until the fulfillment of my covenant, when I will save you and bring you back again into the garden and into the house of light you long for, in which there is no darkness. I will bring you to it in the reign of the Shamiam. Again Elohim said to Adam, all this misery that you have been made to take on yourself because of your transgression will not free you from the hand of Satan, and it will not save you. But I will, when my Ben shall come down from the Shamiam and shall become flesh of your descendants, and take on himself the infirmity from which you suffer, then the darkness that covered you in this cave shall cover him in the grave, when he is the flesh of your descendants. And he, who is without years, shall be subject to the reckoning of years, of times, of months, and of days, and he shall be reckoned as one of the sons of men in order to save you. And Elohim ceased to commune with Adam. 18. Adam and Eve 1. 15. Then Adam and Hawwah cried and were sorrowful because of Elohim's word to them, that they should not return to the garden until the fulfillment of the days decreed on them, but mostly because Elohim had told them that his Ben should suffer for their deliverance. 16. After this, Adam and Hawwah continued to stand in the cave, praying and crying, until the morning dawned on them. And when they saw the light return to them, they refrained from being afraid and strengthened their hearts. Then Adam came out of the cave, And when he came to the mouth of it and stood and turned his face towards the east and saw the sunrise in glowing rays and felt the heat thereof on his body, he was afraid of it and thought in his heart that this flame came forth to plague him. He then cried and beat his chest, and he fell on the ground on his face and made his appeal, saying, O hawwah, plague me not, neither consume me, nor yet take away my life from the earth. For he thought the sun was Elohim. Because while he was in the garden and heard the voice of Elohim and the sound he made in the garden, and feared him, Adam never saw the brilliant light of the sun, neither did its flaming heat touch his body. Therefore he was afraid of the sun when flaming rays of it reached him. He thought Elohim meant to plague him with it all the days he had decreed for him. For Adam also said in his thoughts, that Elohim did not plague them with darkness, but he had caused this sun to rise and to plague them with burning heat. But while he was thinking like this in his heart, the word of Elohim came to him and said, Adam, get up on your feet. This sun is not Elohim, but it has been created to give light by day that I spoke. 19. 1 Adam and Hawwah. To you about in the cave, saying, the dawn would come, and there would be light by day. But I am Elohim who comforted you in the night. And Elohim ceased to commune with Adam. 17. Then Adam and Hawwah came out at the mouth of the cave and went toward the garden. But as they went near the western gate, from which Satan came when he deceived Adam and Hawwah, they found the serpent that became Satan coming at the gate, and it was sorrowfully licking the dust, and wiggling on its breast on the ground because of the curse that fell on it from Elohim. Before the curse the serpent was the most exalted of all beasts, now it was changed and become slippery and the meanest of them all, and it crept on its breast and went on its belly. Before, it was the fairest of all beasts. It had been changed and became the most ugly of them all. Instead of feeding on the best food, now it turned to eat the dust. Instead of living as before, in the best places, now it lived in the dust. It had been the most beautiful of all beasts, and all stood speechless at its beauty, it was now abhorred of them. And, again, whereas it lived in a beautiful home, to which all other animals came from everywhere, and where it drank, they drank also of the same. Now, after it had become venomous, by reason of Elohim's curse, all beasts fled from its home and would not drink of the water it drank, but fled from it. 18. When the accursed serpent saw Adam and Hawwah, it swelled its head, stood on its tail, and with eyes blood red, it acted like it would kill them. It made straight for Hawwah and ran after her, while Adam stood by and yelled because he had no stick in his hand with which to hit the serpent, and did not know how to put it to death. 20. Adam and Eve 1. But with a heart burning for Hawwah, Adam approached the serpent and held it by the tail. When it turned towards him and said to him, O Adam, because of you and Hawwah I am slippery, and go on my belly. Then with its great strength it threw down Adam and Hawwah and squeezed them, and tried to kill them. But Elohim sent a messenger who threw the serpent away from them, and raised them up. Then the word of Elohim came to the serpent, and said to it, The first time I made you slick, and made you to go on your belly, but I did not deprive you of speech. This time, however, you will be mute, and you and your race will speak no more, because the first time my creatures were ruined because of you, and this time you tried to kill them. Then the serpent was struck mute, and it was no longer able to speak. And a wind blew down from the Shamaim by the command of Elohim and carried away the serpent from Adam and Hawwah and threw it on the seashore, where it landed in India. 19. But Adam and Hawwah cried before Elohim. And Adam said to him, O hawwah, when I was in the cave I said this to you, hawwah, the beasts of the field would rise and devour me and cut off my life from the earth. Then Adam, because of what had happened to him, beat his chest and fell on the ground like a corpse. Then the word of Elohim came to him, who raised him, and said to him, O Adam, not one of these beasts will be able to hurt you, because I have made the beasts and other moving things come to you in the cave. I did not let the serpent come with them, because it might have risen against you and made you tremble, and the fear of it should fall into your hearts. 21. 1 Adam and Hawwah. I knew that the accursed one is wicked, therefore I would not let it come near you with the other beasts. But now strengthen your heart and fear not. I am with you to the end of the days I have determined for you. 20. Then Adam cried and said, O Elohim, take us away to some other place, where the serpent cannot come near us again and rise against us. For I fear that it might find your handmaid Hawwa alone and kill her, for its eyes are hideous and evil. But Elohim said to Adam and Hawwa, Don't be afraid. From now on, I will not let it come near you. I have driven it away from you and from this mountain. I will not leave in it the ability to hurt you. Then Adam and Hawwa worshipped before Elohim and gave him thanks and praised him for having delivered them from death. 21. Then Adam and Hawwa went in search of the garden. And the heat beat like a flame on their faces and they sweated from the heat. And they cried before hawwah. But the place where they cried was close to a high mountain top that faced the western gate of the garden. Then Adam threw himself down from the top of that mountain. His face was torn and his flesh was ripped and he lost much of his blood and was close to death. Meanwhile Hawwa remained standing on the mountain crying over him lying as he was. And she said, I don't wish to live after him, for all that he did to himself was because of me. Then she threw herself after him, and was torn and ripped by stones and remained lying as dead. But the merciful Elohim, who looks over his creatures, looked at Adam and Hawwa as they lay dead, and he sent his word to them and raised them. 22. Adam and Eve 1. And said to Adam, O Adam, all this misery, which you have brought on yourself, will have no effect on my ruling, neither will it alter the covenant of the 5,500 years. 22. Then Adam said to Elohim, I dry up in the heat, I am faint from walking, and I don't want to be in this world. And I don't know when you will let me rest and take me out of it. Then hawwah Elohim said to him, O Adam, it cannot be now, not until you have ended your days. Then I shall bring you out of this miserable land. And Adam said to Elohim, While I was in the garden I knew neither heat, nor fatigue, neither transience, nor trembling, nor fear, but now since I came to this land, all this affliction has come over me. Then Elohim said to Adam, So long as you were keeping my commandment, my light and my grace rested on you. But when you transgressed my commandment, sorrow and misery came to you in this land. And Adam cried and said, O hawwah, do not cut me off for this, neither punish me with heavy plagues, nor yet repay me according to my sin, for we, of our own will, transgressed your commandment and ignored your Torah and tried to become Elohim like you when Satan the enemy deceived us. Then Elohim said again to Adam, Because you have endured fear and trembling in this land of fatigue and suffering, treading and walking about, going on this mountain, and dying from it, I will take all this on myself in order to save you. 23. Then Adam cried more and said, O Elohim, have mercy on me and do not take on yourself that which I will do. But Elohim withdrew his word from Adam and Hawwa. Then Adam and Hawwa stood on their feet and Adam said to Hawwa, Strengthen yourself, and I. 23. 1 Adam and Hawwa also will strengthen myself. And she strengthened herself as Adam told her. Then Adam and Hawwa took stones and placed them in the shape of an altar and they took leaves from the trees outside the garden, with which they wiped from the face of the rock the blood they had spilled. But that which had dropped on the sand they took together with the dust with which it was mixed and offered it on the altar as an offering to Elohim. Then Adam and Hawwa stood under the altar and cried, praying to Elohim, Forgive us our offense and our sin, and look at us with your eye of mercy. For when we were in the garden our praises and our hymns went up before you without ceasing. But when we came into this strange land, pure praise was no longer ours, nor righteous prayer, nor understanding hearts, nor sweet thoughts, nor wise judgment, nor long discernment, nor upright feelings, neither was our bright nature left within us. But our body is changed from the likeness in which it was at first when we were created. Yet now look at our blood which is offered on these stones and accept it at our hands as if it were the praise we used to sing to you at first when we were in the garden. And Adam began to make more requests of Elohim. 24. Then the merciful Elohim, who is good and a lover of men, looked at Adam and Hawwa and at their blood, which they had held up as an offering to him without an order from him for so doing. But he wondered at them and accepted their offering. And Elohim sent from his presence a bright fire that consumed their offering. He smelled the sweet savor of their offering and showed them mercy. Then the word of Elohim came to Adam, and said to him, O Adam, as you have shed your blood so will my Ben shed his own blood when he becomes flesh. 24. Adam and Eve 1. Of your descendants. And as you died, O Adam, so also will he die. And as you built an altar, so also will I make for you an altar of the earth. And as you offered your blood on it, so also will I offer my Ben's blood on an altar on the earth. And as you appealed for forgiveness through that blood, so also will I make his blood forgiveness of sins and erase transgressions in it. And now, behold, I have accepted your offering, O Adam, but the days of the covenant in which I have bound you are not fulfilled. When they are fulfilled, then will I bring you back into the garden. Now, therefore, strengthen your heart. And when sorrow comes over you make me an offering and I will be favorable to you. 25. But Elohim knew that Adam believed he would frequently kill himself and make an offering to him of his blood. Therefore he said to him, Adam, don't ever kill yourself like this again, by throwing yourself down from that mountain. But Adam said to Elohim, I was thinking to put an end to myself right now for having transgressed your commandments and for my having come out of the beautiful garden and for the bright light which you have taken from me. And for the praises which poured out from my mouth without ceasing, and for the light that covered me. Yet because of your goodness, O Elohim, you did not get rid of me altogether, but you have been favorable to me every time I die and you bring me to life. And thereby it will be made known that you are a merciful Elohim who does not want anyone to perish, who would love it if no one should fall, and who does not condemn anyone cruelly, badly, or by total destruction. Then Adam remained silent. 25. 1 Adam and Hawwah. And the word of Elohim came to him and barak him and comforted him and covenanted with him that he would save him at the end of the days determined for him. This, then, was the first offering Adam made to Elohim and so it became his custom to do. 26. Then Adam took Hawwah and they began to return to the cave of treasures where they lived. But when they got closer to it and saw it from a distance, heavy sorrow fell on Adam and Hawwah when they looked at it. Then Adam said to Hawwah, when we were on the mountain we were comforted by the word of Elohim that talked with us and the light that came from the east shone over us. But now the word of Elohim is hidden from us and the light that shined over us has changed so much that it has disappeared and let darkness and sorrow cover us. And we are forced to enter this cave that is like a prison, in which darkness covers us so that we are separated from each other. You cannot see me, I cannot see you. When Adam had said these words, they cried and spread their hands before Elohim because they were full of sorrow. And they prayed to Elohim to bring the sun for them to shine on them so that darkness would not return to them and that they wouldn't have to go under this covering of rock. They wanted to die rather than see the darkness. Then Elohim looked at Adam and Hawwah and at their great sorrow and all they had done with a fervent heart because of all the trouble they were in. When compared to their former state of well-being, all the misery that came over them did so in this strange land. Therefore Elohim was neither angry with them nor impatient, but he was patient and long-suffering toward them, as toward the children he had created. 26. Adam and Eve 1. Then the word of Elohim came to Adam and said to him, Adam, regarding the sun, if I were to take it and bring it to you, days, hours, years and months would all stop and the covenant I have made with you would never be fulfilled. And you would be deserted and stuck in a perpetual plague and you would never be saved. Yes, rather, bear up long, and calm your soul while you live night and day until the fulfillment of the days and the time of my covenant has come. Then I shall come and save you, Adam. I do not wish for you to be afflicted. And when I look at all the good things that you lived in before, and why you came out of them, then I am willing to show you mercy. But I cannot alter the covenant that has gone out of my mouth, otherwise I would have brought you back into the garden. However, when the covenant is fulfilled then I will show you and your descendants mercy, and bring you into a land of gladness where there is neither sorrow nor suffering but abiding joy and gladness, and light that never fails, and praises that never cease. And a beautiful garden that shall never pass away. And Elohim said again to Adam, be patient and enter the cave because of the darkness of which you were afraid shall only be 12 hours long. When it is over, light will come up. Then when Adam heard these words from Elohim, he and Hawwah worshipped before him, and their hearts were comforted. They returned into the cave after their custom, while tears flowed from their eyes, sorrow and wailing came from their hearts and they wished their soul would leave their body. And Adam and Hawwa stood praying until the darkness of night covered them, and Adam was hidden from Hawwa and she from him. And they remained standing in prayer. 27. 1 Adam and Hawwa. 27. Satan, the hater of all that is good, saw how they continued in prayer, and how Elohim communed with them, and comforted them, and how he had accepted their offering. Then Satan made a phantasm. He began by transforming his hosts. In his hands was a shining, glimmering fire, and they were in a huge light. Then he placed his throne near the mouth of the cave, because he could not enter it due to their prayers. And he shone light into the cave until the cave glistened over Adam and Hawwa while his hosts began to sing praises. Satan did this so that when Adam saw the light he would think to himself that it was a light of the Shamayim, and that Satan's hosts were messengers, and that Elohim had sent them to watch at the cave, and give him light in the darkness. Satan planned that when Adam came out of the cave and saw them and Adam and Hawwa bowed to Satan, then he would overcome Adam and humble him before Elohim a second time. When, therefore, Adam and Hawwa saw the light, thinking it was real, they strengthened their hearts. Then, as they were trembling, Adam said to Hawwa, "Look at that great light, and at those many songs of praise, and at that host standing outside who won't come into our cave. Why don't they tell us what they want, or where they are from, or what the meaning of this light is, or what those praises are, or why they have been sent to this place, and why they won't come in? If they were from Elohim, they would come into the cave with us and would tell us why they were sent." Then Adam stood up and prayed to Elohim with a burning heart and said, "Ohwhy, is there in the world another Elohim besides you, who created messengers and filled them with light, and sent them to keep us, who would come with them?" 28. Adam and Eve 1. But, look, we see these hosts that stand at the mouth of the cave. They are in a great light and they sing loud praises. If they are of some other Elohim than you, tell me, and if they are sent by you, inform me of the reason for which you have sent them. No sooner had Adam said this, than a messenger from Elohim appeared to him in the cave, who said to him, "O Adam, fear not. This is Satan and his hosts. He wishes to deceive you as he deceived you at first. For the first time, he was hidden in the serpent, but this time he has come to you in the likeness of a messenger of light, in order that, when you worshipped him, he might enslave you in the very presence of Elohim." Then the messenger went from Adam and seized Satan at the opening of the cave, and stripped him of the false image he had assumed, and brought him in his own hideous form to Adam and Hawwa, who were afraid of him when they saw him. And the messenger said to Adam, "This hideous form has been his ever since Elohim made him fall from the Shamayim. He could not have come near you in it. Therefore, he transformed himself into a messenger of light." Then the messenger drove Satan and his hosts away from Adam and Hawwa and said to them, "Fear not. Elohim who created you will strengthen you." And the messenger left them. But Adam and Hawwa remained standing in the cave, and no consolation came to them, as they were divided in their thoughts. And when it was morning they prayed and then went out to seek the garden, for their hearts were seeking it, and they could get no consolation for having left it. 28. But when the crafty Satan saw that they were going to the garden, he gathered together his host and came in appearance on a cloud, intent on deceiving them. 29. 1 Adam and Hawwa. But when Adam and Hawwa saw him in a vision, they thought they were messengers of Elohim come to comfort them about having left the garden, or to bring them back again into it. And Adam spread his hands before Elohim, begged him to make him understand what they were. Then Satan, the hater of all that is good, said to Adam, "O Adam, I am a messenger of the great Elohim, and behold the hosts that surround me. Elohim has sent us to take you and bring you to the northern border of the garden, to the shore of the clear sea, and bathe you and Hawwa in it, and raise you to your former joy, that you return to the garden once again." These words sank into the heart of Adam and Hawwa. Yet Elohim withheld his word from Adam, and did not make him understand at once, but waited to see his strength, and whether he would be overcome as Hawwa was when in the garden, or whether he would win this battle. Then Satan called to Adam and Hawwa and said, "Behold, we go to the sea of water," and they began to go. And Adam and Hawwa followed them at little distance. But when they came to the mountain to the north of the garden, which was a very high mountain without any steps to the top of it, the devil came near to Adam and Hawwa, and made them go up to the top in reality and not in a vision. Because he wished to throw them down and kill them, and to wipe their names from the earth, so that this earth should belong to him and his hosts alone. 29. But when the merciful Elohim saw that Satan wished to kill Adam with his many tricks, and saw that Adam was meek and without guile, Elohim spoke to Satan in a loud voice, and cursed him. 30. Adam and Eve 1.